Well, I guess the way I'd like to phrase it is
There,
okay. So my
well, wait a
question
minute.
to you, Tom, is
Now we're going again. I forgot
okay.
uh, one name to the, and that is the name of Dave Brousson, Brousson. Dave intervened personally as part of the became known as the Canadian. I think he was a liberal in the legislature, the BC legislature, and I don't want to miss him. Now we can proceed.
Okay. I'm gonna writing all these I want to talk to
Yes.
studies that were done during the course of the permit application review process, and I think that it's been shown science plays some sort of role. We turn to scientists to assess impacts, costs, and benefits. But what about back then in the 1970s? What role did the
Gee, was that so
play?
so long ago?
Well,
It seems just like yesterday. Some of us.
It was early in the.
It was early in.
era of
That's right.
environmental law.
It was very early in the era of. But I don't believe it's not exists that's known as objective science. Everybody has and I believe that you can have scientists looking at the same subject that will come up with different answers. And they can both be convinced that they're correct. Science, let's look at things. There are judgments in science. You don't exist in science doesn't exist in a vacuum. So I just think that you start with that reality that you don't science out there. If we only really get the scientists out there to bring their very best on this, everything's going to be wonderful. We're dealing with human beings, and I'm not denigrating that. That's is how you're going to have difference in judgments because the question might not be, is this a question of 2 and 2? But maybe it's 3 and 1 or 6 and 8. Now, everyone can agree that 2 and 2 is 4, but that doesn't mean that judgments as to whether that's the question are not made. They're always made. I'll tell you, in the a lot of the environmental groups and things who didn't like projects and things, one of the first things I always told them was, look, there are laws on the books that you think are going to be easy winners for us. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. Don't count on your public officials to interpret the law the way you think is very clear. And it was always very discouraging. And in the Ross Dam proceeding, we had a lot of different controversies about the effects on fish. And I just think that's the way the world exists. And that I'm perfectly.
Legal strategy of yours to try credit or disqualify the expertise?
Oh, you always do that. You challenge. of the, well, now look, they had to put on people that said that Ross Dam was seismically okay. And there were some questions about, we didn't deal very much with that, but the seismologists from City Light and the staff people said, oh, this is okay. But we did have a dispute on science as to how many, what's going to be the increased output in both peaking and energy. And sure, all the direct testimony is filed by paper months before the witness appears, and the only thing that goes on in the proceedings is cross-examination. And you always look at the assumptions, because once you start down the conclusions, it just follows beautifully. Yeah. But that's no, it's no. I was about to. It's not necessary.
With this tangent, I'm curious to know, did you go try to find experts yourself?
Oh, sure. Oh, we put a lot of testimony in. We had, we had Gardner Brown, who's an economist. We had retired Park Service person. We had, and Joe and Margaret Miller know more about the Big Beaver Valley than anybody knows about that. And then City Light put on Grant Sharp, who was a guy from the College of Forestry, who said, seen one cedar tree. These aren't any different from thousands of other ones. Who did the wonderful guy, the staff put, forest ecologist. He ended up being head of the Forest Service briefly, Johnson.
Oh, Jerry Franklin?
Jerry Franklin, yes. So you see, you've got different folks spouting different things. And some are more credible than others.
Now, one last question I have for you, but she wanted to ask.
We have 5 minutes.
I'm curious to know where the First Nations on the
Yeah, where were the First Nations?
Standing? I mean, this was certainly
I cannot answer that. I simply don't remember. After the proceedings were closed, the appeals were going on. Events which dealing with the downstream flow from below the 3 dams, and the tribes. I think collections, they didn't have their act together. Fighting the Bolt decision and become really intervening. And furthermore, we start, which is very good, and let the biologists work things out. That's happening more. But now I would have to say American, the original Americans. But tribal fisheries up in hunting. I have. Yes, I don't think there were any First Nations that appeared on the Canadian side.
Are they named at all as parties in the treaty?
No.
No?
Don't think so.
Well, I've done a lot of things you wonder about.
In our left. I think my main question is whether you're involved in any current environmental issues in the Valley.
Environmental down goes. We was the first, and we meet and dole out money, do everything we can to studied, supported. And that's a whole separate subject. But we got to seek because we held off City Light for 13 years, and we had inappropriate people in power at the right time to have a solution which we're very happy at.
Do you work with much?
Without, what do you mean, school kids?
Or just other people?
Turned in my license. And lots of and our interests.
You know, just in the interest of the historical record, the sort of time capsule.
Sure.
I'll stop.
Good. I like to think of these interviews in a way as creating a time capsule, because someday, 50 years from now, somebody will, in the minds of these far-sighted people when they were making these important choices way back in the. So we're, in a way, we're self-consciously creating a bit of.
Okay, go ahead. Recording.
So I just wanted to spend our last few minutes together with you, listening to you talk a bit about the SEEK and your involvement with the commission, and what you think some of its accomplishments have been.
The SEEK, of course, has 4 members from the the City Light United States side, 4 members, 4 Canadian commissioners, and each commissioner has an alternate. And I was appointed an alternate to Pat Goldsworthy back when this was first set up, although I only attended maybe 1 or 2 meetings, because at that time alternates only attended when the commissioners could not. And Pat was very, very strongly committed to the commission, and he always attended. And I remember getting a call from my friend Norm Rice, who was then the mayor. He said, "Tom," he said, "I'm disappointing you off the commission." I said, "Okay, I haven't done much anyway." But 3 years ago, Pat Goldsworthy, who was then an alternate, was not to be reappointed, and I was appointed as an alternate, which I am now. Things have changed quite a bit. Paul Schell appointed me. He was the mayor at that point. Now the commission meets with the commissioners and the alternates at all the meetings. Everybody participates equally. The only difference is when it comes to a vote, the alternates don't vote. But in the 3 or some odd years that I've been on as an alternate, there have been very few controversies, and most of the decisions are fairly unanimous. Now, the commission is really has undergone a great change just in the short time I've been on there. A large part of what the commission did was to respond to entities, both individuals and corporations, that wanted to do some sort of research or some sort of good in the valley. You've had the SCA, the Student Conservation Association, has gotten money. That's a group of kids, very nationwide, very good organization that has constructed and reconstructed things. You've got people who are doing master's studies looking at bats or mosquitoes, or they've looked at ancient archaeological sites, grizzly bears, all kinds of things. But what's happened recently is that we've entered into what are known as partnerships with people who have been with us for a long time. There's two of them now. One is the National Park Service, and the other is the North Cascades Institute, NCI. And we give them, I don't know, $60,000, $80,000 a year. And then they spend the money upon the way they think it best. So, and now we're moving on to another level. There's a retreat here in June in which we are going, instead of responding to what people who want to do studies up there, we are going to decide what we want, what we think is important for the integrity of the valley, and we'll put out some RFPs to get people to respond. And I think it's a great step forward. But the commission has, just $300,000 a year. So City Light and BC Hydro both put in funds. So there's keeping the endowment going. And we're there to ensure the integrity of all the values of the Skagit, basically above Ross Dam and into Canada, are determined and defended. And we have school kids that we support who go out on 3-day weekends and are introduced to environmental values of the Skagit. NCI is doing just marvelous things with the 5th grade of the Mount Vernon School District. It's not only a 2-week program, it's all year round. There's lots of things going on. We're trying to encourage the environmental understanding, awareness, protection, and knowledge of the Skagit Valley. So that's it.
Any other closing remarks you'd like to share with us, the things
Nope.
that you had wanted to tell us we didn't ask you about?
Oh, I'm sure I'll think of something.
Okay.
In which case I'll send you an email or something.
Oh, great. Well, we appreciate it.
And you asked me whether I had any pictures or anything or other, and I can't find, but after the treaty was settled, there was a big victory party up in the, right at the end of the road, right at the upper end of the lake, which we all attended, and we just had a marvelous time. And I do have some pictures of that. I thought I could find them, but that was a nice gathering of some very happy people.
Well, it sounds like it was a tremendously long.
Well, it was. It was long, frustrating struggle.
Yeah.
But the good guys won. And that's what counts.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So this will end.
Is that what you're after?
It's terrific. I have
Before you
something.
go, before you get up,
Yes.
I'd like to do room code, which means I'll be quiet for 60 seconds. So, and we'll start now. That includes not walking around it.
So we'll start.
now. Okay.
Do you edit this at all?